Welcome to Inferno 2023. Here it is once again, Rauta channel, me, Jerry, and some nice gentlemen. I'm not so nice, but these guys are, so stay tuned for what they have something to say. And this is a curious thing. Nordjevel is not exactly playing here, but somehow we caught these birds. I'm gonna call them birds. Bird number one, please introduce yourself to the camera and the audience. Who the hell are you and why are you here?
I am Doedsadmiral, the vocalist in Nordjevel, and I'm actually here to do the interview with you.
Oh my, be blushing. And what about you, sir? You were here last year as well, so it's kind of a comeback.
It is nice to be reunited with this couple. Yeah, my name is Nils Fjellström and I play drums for Nordjevel.
Okay, first we'll tackle the very weird thing. And I know this is a kind of a goofy way to start, but let's make it soft. What is going on with all the djevels in Norway nowadays? Before you answer, back in the 90s, I all remember how dark this, dark that, dark whatever was into place. And now we have not only Nordjevel, we have Djevel Cult, and who knows what other djevels there are out. Well, what's the story with the devil in modern black metal coming from Norway?
It's actually a very important word in Norwegian black metal, in the Norwegian sense of djevel, and I think it's actually just a coincidence that you have Nordjevel, Djevel Cult. I don't think anything is based on another band. I think it's just. It's actually strange that nobody did it in the 90s.
Exactly, that was when we had a conversation. Like, is this the 2010 version of what was going on with the 90s with the dark throats, dark funerals, and all that shit and murders?
It's a little bit the same principle, but I think it's just strange and a coincidence that it didn't happen until the 2000s.
All right, we'll come back to you in soon with the very same question what I'm about to ask you. You, both of you guys, you played like in a million bands and you're known for various bands, session, live, or just albums. How the hell you have the work capacity and the time to play in so many bands? How you keep all the bands like, okay, this is that album, that song and all that stuff, and you kind of figure out the style, how you play your drums in magic ways with all the bands. How you have the time?
I think I forgot myself how to manage. Luckily, with the style, since we both have been playing for such a long time, I think we're pretty comfortable with our style, and I know what if I'm asked to play in a certain band or asked to play on an album. They know my style and they like the way I play, and so then I don't have to change too much with my style, and it makes it easier. But yeah, it feels very good to just have Nordjevel as my main band, and for now. But yeah.
What about you? You also play in various different bands. I'm not much of a background check where I'd rather ask those questions myself and get surprised. But of course, I take a little bit of look on like different bands and projects and whatever. And you've been in various bands, and of course, you're not a young guy anymore, so you have had a lot of miles along the way. But what keeps you going? What keeps you motivated in work so many different bands that are active at the same time, in international waters?
Yeah, I'm a very creative person. I'm a very restless person. I just have so many ideas and thoughts that I need to get out of myself, and I've been lucky because I'm playing with great musicians. And it's also with Nordjevel. I play with these guys, and we are creative in that sense. And then I have Doedsadmiral with Villa and everything. And that's I would say it's a different feeling of black metal. Nordjevel is very extreme, very frenetic, but a band like Doedsadmiral is more old school black metal, and I love everything with black metal. So I feel privileged that I can play there and there on both sides.
Now, knowing Ville from '90s, I know he's kind of a silent type and you know, more in the background, not making a big fuss of himself, and has a million bands. But I also know that he's a kind of a friendly and like a nice guy to be with. That must be the case with you guys. Now it's your time to like make the light shine. Why are you not nice guys playing fierce metal? Because if you were nice guys, you probably wouldn't have so many bands. What a weird question.
Interesting question.
I think for me, it's the music is where I release my demons. I just get a release from all the pain that I have inside and all the suffering, and then everything around. You know, we are all the same guys, and I think we have like one spot that's anger. That's actually the word I would use.
Kind of an inner angriness.
And we release it through the music, and then we are friendly after the show.
That's something something I can relate to.
Yeah, if we didn't play the show, then probably we wouldn't be that friendly.
You would be in a fist fight in a local bar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that applies to you as well. You're kind of a like easy to go. Like I don't know you that well, but we had this chat and all that. I get that smile.
We talked about
and I remember like, okay, this is a chill guy. He wouldn't. I wouldn't imagine a fight happening with you and somebody, because that guy probably puts all his energy behind the drum set, and then he's just sipping a beer and all that stuff. So you also must like people. Am I correct?
Yeah,
to a certain degree.
Yeah, to a certain degree. Very much so. Yeah, I don't think I would have felt as at peace with everything if I wouldn't have this outlet through the music and the playing and the way I play. Drum playing for me has always been about energy and to play as energetic as possible and get that across to the audience. But for me also personally to just get rid of all what you might be carrying inside. So it's always been a very healthy release to play this game. So.
Especially when your style is very, very intense. You're not exactly like barely touching the drums, but you also play technical style, but also fast, fierce. And sometimes I feel like, okay, this guy must have some 4 arms or whatever. But now what I want to ask, I think I also partially talked about it last year, but that's one different interview. How do you put yourself in a different mindset when you shift from, say, death metal to black metal to something else? How do you, like, this is something I need to change in order to play this and that?
I always try to be mindful of the energy in the music. I just try to, depending on what style is presented to me, I just try to feel what does this require, and do I need to play more, I don't know, punk approach, or more like, or does it need to be robotic? Does it need to be more clean? I just try to really take in the music. Yeah. Do
people ever come to you like, Niels, you play so fast and fierce with various bands, could you play more simple styles? Could you play slow?
All the time, yeah, I get that all the time. He only plays fast, you know, it's no feeling, but I think it's all about feeling.
Yeah,
that's the way I feel when I play. It's all about the feeling and all the feelings, emotions, when you feel when you play. And so I don't really get that,
but I guess there are the people who don't really understand the style we're talking about.
Yeah, probably, or yeah.
Now we've been always all the time been talking about how much this is outlet for our emotions and all that stuff, and of course one of the key elements with especially Nordic black metal has always been that we're about grimness, we're all about cold weathers and all that kind of darkness which is depressing, and we're hateful and all that stuff, like how black metal all kind of grew up on, hateful feelings. But the other side, like we mentioned, is that we also are like decent human beings and able to put it all together. How many different roles you have to have in order to just like work out all these different aspects, not only bands, but your social life, your personal life, your me time or whatever, how much you compartmentalize things?
Yeah, for me it's quite a lot, because you have yeah, I have a normal life at home with a family and everything, and there it's at peace. And at my in my own life, I always build up to that. It almost feels like I need to play a gig now, because I don't know, the normal rhythm of human life I'm not really comfortable with. I can deal with it for 2 weeks, but then the
restless
anger,
spirit.
yeah, the restlessness and the aggression just builds up, and then I need to go. I need to leave. If I don't play a concert, like with my girlfriend, then she says,
Go
leave.
out.
Yeah.
Leave the house.
Yeah, she said, go
Yeah.
to the cabin, be alone, because then I get angry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it's like almost like you live a double life.
I totally get you.
Yeah, you try to be normal, but you can manage for so long, but it doesn't really work.
Now, this is a topic that I have had discussions with, especially with the kind of a younger generation who come to metal as newbies and things like that, and especially so-called normies, people who are not into metal, and they're like, why do you have to dress with clothing which has inverted crosses and skeletons and things with death? And like, yeah, that's part of the story, but I don't want to go deep into that. But that's like you said, that's very much inside of us, and that's kind of hard to explain. But do people ever challenge you, like Anders, like, why do you have this side of things? Or are they like, okay, I'll just accept that as it is and move on? Or do you ever get confrontations?
Yeah, all the time. Especially from family. They don't understand at all what I'm doing. And I can't really explain it to them, because it's if I try to explain it, it's they have no idea. They have no idea about the what I call the feeling that you have inside about expressing yourself, about being restless, because they don't feel it. And how do you explain that to normal people? I have no idea. I've tried for 20 years and I still didn't manage.
I understand. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
All right, talking about the feelings, now we have the drummer gone, we can start slandering.
Yeah.
Now, we're talking about different bands once again. You, of course, have to have a different kind of approach, like what kind of lyrics or what kind of output you do, like maybe putting different kind of garments on you, and of course approaching these different bands with different people. How work from your perception or perception? Perception. How it differs? Like, I mean, like when you go from, say, Nordjevel to Doedsadmiral, how different it is to you just get into the right role, so to speak.
It's actually quite easy, because from my perspective, Nordjevel it's a fast band. It's what I would call a traditional band. With Doedsadmiral, I feel that lyrically it's more diverse, more big. I ask a lot more questions. It's a much more confusing what I ask. Somebody says more orthodox. The lyrics is more biblical, so to say. But Nordjevel is more what I grew up with. It's traditional. It's Norwegian lyrics, English lyrics. It's satanic. It's anti-religious. Easily that. But with Doedsadmiral, it's more. I don't know. It's more deep. I'm asking questions that I don't have the answer to myself.
Doesn't it get hard for you to face those questions and not getting answered?
Yeah, but that's also the frustration of my life. I'm actually asking,
comes with the territory.
Yeah, but I'm asking the questions, and if somebody comes to me and says, I have the answer, I'm happy. Maybe it will give me a little bit more peace.
Well, that's kind of a good advice to give a peace of mind for solving those puzzles.
Yeah.
Now, talking about nowadays Norwegian black metal, this is, in my opinion, very interesting topic. I don't know about the rest of the people, but I think this needs to be addressed, especially now that I'm doing this kind of a crash course to Norwegian black metal. I've been listening to a lot of old bands as well as with these newer releases. As I sent you recently, like your album release, which I really liked. I think it's a really good album. But what I noticed is that this is something that I partially noticed in the 90s, but it's kind of a different from nowadays perception, that a lot of those old bands that started in the 90s, which were there to kind of build the whole called second wave black metal, started to kind of lose their edge with the late 90s. And it seems like it took quite a while for Norwegian bands to kind of bring up the newer bands, even if not new or young guys. And nowadays it seems like there are plenty of interesting bands, not only yours, but definitely part of that. And suddenly there's kind of new bloom of Norwegian black metal doing something like a comeback, like we failed you in the early 2000s when everybody wanted to dress up like a Matrix character, and now let's fuck it and let's get back to the roots. And you've been in the scene for quite some time, so what is your opinion about these changes and people growing up and bands getting matured and also becoming some kind of a new thing?
I grew up in the 90s in a very small town. We didn't have a lot of bands. It was, I think, I grew up with Strid.
I remember that band.
Yeah. And we also had a band called Fester.
That I don't know.
And Doedsadmiral is actually also partially from Asker.
Okay.
So that's also what I grew up with. And I don't know. I think that we just want to stay personally or musically in that era of time, but it's not possible because everything around us changes. I feel that everything around us changes. We try not to change.
We kind of try to keep it the same, but it's impossible.
It's impossible. And somebody goes with it and tries to change with the times. Somebody doesn't. I'm a little bit. I respect whatever you want to do. Black metal for me is about the heart. It's not about if you play slow or fast or this or that. It's about if you have the right heart, and that is black metal. Then I think that is what is. Sounds stupid, but true to me.
I totally understand because it's already the discussion when we were 20s. I mean, I was also born in 1970s, so of course it was kind of a formative years to go through the early 90s and fight about these bands and how you said they were true. And I remember those discussions with one of my friends, like we were pondering like which one were real, which one were true, and which were just in for the fame and glory or whatever, even though of course black metal was very small bands, small clubs and all that stuff. And I remember even my first time in Inferno was like 2004. And of course the event was still in the same place, but it was different, you know, even the bigger bands. Nowadays, big bands, they were just like, we have been here only for 10 years. Now, 20 plus years later, it seems all like, these guys have been here for eternity. And some of these bands which were like small in the 90s are way too big for Rockefeller and Inferno nowadays. And of course that brought money and fame and different perspective. And there has been a lot of talk about how some people kind of abandoned their roots. Like, how do you feel? You're Norwegian, you've seen it closer than me. Like these changes, like how some bands became big and successful and went wherever they went.
I think everybody came from the same place with the same mindset. Somebody took it to another level. Somebody took it to a different level. Somebody didn't even take it to a level. But for me, it's the feeling and the heart is there. I don't really care if it is a successful band or if it's an underground band. It's always like, for me, it's about the heart. If the heart is at the right place, I respect whatever you do.
So could we say it's all about like honesty and emotions?
Yeah. Honesty is actually the best word.
That's what I try to do here. Yeah. But I mean, I totally understand, because that's one of the reasons why I've been, following the bands and doing the reviews and all that stuff, because it feels like kind of it's letting us down. Like some of the big guys came, and then when they got successful, like, fuck it, let's just.
Yeah.
And I'm like, me and the guys are like, what the hell happened to these guys?
Yeah.
But then again, I also understand it's a very human thing to do.
Yeah.
But it's also curious to see, like, some of the older guys, like, they never went away. And of course, some people kind of vanished already, like 1992. Like, okay, we did one demo, fuck it, let's do something else, get a haircut and whatever.
Yeah.
But how different things are, in your opinion, based from 2020s to 2010s, early 2000s or 90s? How do you see that scene shaping up and changing with people?
For me, in the 90s, black metal was dangerous. I was afraid, to be around people who play black metal. When I was in my own town, I met the guys in Strid and Doedsadmiral. It had some kind of fear element around it. You didn't feel safe. And for some reason, when the 2000s came, you felt safe.
Suddenly things had changed for real.
And I think a lot had to do with the crimes, because it was very big in the Norwegian media. And it actually tried to scare people. And
I remember those shocking news, like murders, arsons, whatever.
And it scared people. Even I was very, very, because I'm a little bit younger than, 2 years younger than the old guys. But 2 years meant a lot at that time. I was afraid. I was afraid when I met them. I was very humble when I met them. And 2000s came, and these guys were still fearful. But I don't know, something started to change. I noticed, I don't know what it was, but I don't know if it was society or media or the 2000s, it became safer.
One thing I remember that it was like suddenly it was more seen as a kind of a musical thing, not just some kind of an underground thing where like people, even like punk, like that was like anti-establishment, anti-society, and all that stuff. Suddenly it started to be more on the big labels, big media. I still remember and traumatized by that interview with some, like, I think it was early 2000s, where Satyricon was like, we're gonna conquer and bring black metal to America, and I was like, what the fuck? Don't you know those 90s bands? They're after all the same age as me, and anyway. And then I remember how suddenly the bands getting bigger and bigger and starting to gather more fame, and suddenly it was like more mainstream media was attracted, and of course so-called tourists started to wander in, and of course it's partially thanks to them that we have these different festivals that's given, but it also feels like it was kind of diluted. That first you have this 40% vodka, and then you start pouring water, taking sips, and what you have in the left is like, this is almost like mineral water with a little bit weird taste, rather than the original one. And I've seen these changes, and it feels like weird. Like some bands are just like, hey, it's all about just music. Like, wow, let's be friends. So, are you disappointed in all of this, or are you like, hey, things change? Who knows?
No, I accept that things change. I try for myself not to change, because of course I'm not going to say that no, the music doesn't matter, but I will never ever play this music if it wasn't for the philosophy behind it, and anti-religious, anti-human, satanic part of it. If that wasn't a part of my life, I wouldn't play it.
Now that is a kind of topic which we've been addressing many times, and I'm very much on the same page, but it seems like people who are outside the black metal scene or community, whatever you want to call it, don't seem to grasp the idea that if you remove all the ideological parts, the philosophical parts, the satanic essence, the individuality, it wouldn't be any more black metal. It would be something like a fake, cheap copy of it. But do we have to care what they say? Because I mean, after all, before you go, now that we noticed or mentioned that how this became more commercial, even Norwegian government started giving the Spielemann and awards like, hey, Dark Throne, come pick this up, and like people are like, what the fuck? This is how it was supposed to go.
No, it's. I would say that it's you have black metal and you have extreme metal. If somebody wants to play a black metal style of music without the satanic approach, call it extreme metal. But I don't think it's black metal without the opposition.
So is it kind of like a vegan version of steaks?
In the principle, yes, because I don't think, for me, black metal doesn't exist without an opposition or a satanic view or an anti-religious view, because for me, black metal is about going against everything that has to do with religion and how humanity is. For me, that's the principle.
I think Archcode mentioned this about 4 years ago when I did an interview. Like he was calling like NSBM is non-satanic black metal, essentially saying pretty much the same. Now talking about NSBM, that's what very curious things, because a lot of people in the black metal scene doesn't or don't accept that, because they're bringing more like these live things in metal, and also bringing in politics. And some people are like, but let's bring them in because they're creating these shock value things and making it dangerous again. Now, if you have to choose, would you rather include or exclude NSBM as ideological or political style than, you know, just typical black metal being satanic and they're Christian and all?
It's a hard question. It's for me. It's because for me it's all about the religious aspect. I don't really care about politics. For me, it's I'm at war with humanity and nothing else. I don't really care about politics or whatever, because for me it's the human part is the problem, not the political part.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, this is where it gets interesting, because a lot of people don't seem to understand the difference. Like when you're like against all races or all religions, and people are like suddenly saying like, but now you're racist, you're xenophobic. This is what happened with Tolke when they were cancelled for United States and all that stuff. For like, okay, we don't like people in general, and some people are like, no, you're separating these and that people, and like, no, this is not happening. And this is where it gets confusing, because people don't even try to understand that this is basically what I think Slayer said, like no separation, no segregation. We just hate you all, like fuck off and die, basically. But now it seems like people are trying to avoid these bullets and almost like, I don't want to talk about it. Can we just talk about albums and album art and all that stuff and what happens on stage? But these are important topics to you. So which would you put first? Music or ideology, or are they just equal?
I think for me it goes hand in hand. It's 50-50. I wouldn't play black metal without the lyrical aspect, but I also would not write the lyrics for something that wasn't black metal.
So it kind of is like inseparable in a way.
Yeah, for me it goes hand in hand. It's like the lyrics for a black metal song, you couldn't play that. Or I wouldn't manage to sing that on a rock song. It would be wrong.
That is something that I wanted to actually ask Niels before he had to leave. I'm like because I have always had, this is like a weird way to put it, but I have always like one foot in the death metal department, and that was something like hard for people to grasp in the 90s. Like, how can you come to the black metal show with wearing some like death metal pants or shirts on, and then the other foot was always in the black metal, like, this is where I come from, the ideology, and this is where I go away from the ideology, because certain people are like kind of also a little bit weird about it. And have you had these kind of encounters where like your music is kind of good, but I cannot listen to it because your lyrical or ideological output is just shit?
Yeah, I hear that all the time, and also the other way around, that my music is shit.
Okay.
Sometimes the lyrics are shit, sometimes the music is shit, and I'm a little bit like their problem,
Yeah, it's like
not my problem.
Exactly.
Because I write how I feel and what I think about, and my band or bands write the music we do. We stand for it. If somebody doesn't like it,
their problem.
yeah, probably not a problem. Probably they are lucky that they don't like it, but
It keeps them safe.
yeah, yeah. But you know what? I actually, honestly, it always, every time I watch an interview, it sounds stupid to say, but I honestly do it for myself.
Yeah, I mean, I know why it sounds stupid.
Yeah.
While at the same time, I understand it. I know
Yeah.
it sounds stupid because people are like, so why are you
Yeah.
releasing albums?
Exactly.
And why are you going on stage if you
Yeah.
consider it stupid? But I know what you mean because, and this kind of needs to be explained because a lot of people don't seem to understand it.
Yeah.
Creative minds work in a weird ways. Sometimes
Yeah.
we just have to write songs that never got
Yeah.
published. We just push them in
Yeah.
the drawer, and they're like, they better be
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, but it's for me it's like when you know you write music, you record it, but then when it's recorded, it's almost like I want to move on,
Yeah.
and the way to move on is to release the music. Because for me, it sounds strange, but when the music or an album is released, it's almost like I gave it away.
It's like killing your darlings.
Yeah, it's not up to me anymore.
Yeah, I can totally.
Now I can move on.
I can totally
Yeah.
relate to that. I
Yeah.
feel the same. When I'm doing music, it's kind of like
Yeah.
I want to. It's done. Move
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Next phase.
And when it's released, it's like you're finished.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like end of it.
Yeah, it's like
move on.
finishing a painting and then
Yeah.
you need to start again.
Chapter 2.
Okay, this brings me to another topic which I want to always ask, especially when coming from a Norwegian point of view, because as you know, working with Finnish black metal people,
Yeah.
the scene is very small in a way that even though we have thousands of fans literally, it's always pretty much always that somewhat key characters, key
Yeah.
people are always involved.
Yeah.
So as such, the Finnish black metal scene is essentially quite small.
Yeah.
And I've noticed similar things happening in Norway as well, especially if it's about Bergen or other key cities. It seems like the kind of the same people are often, one way or another, kind of linked, connected to each other. But how would you describe Norwegian scene coming from people that were born in the 70s or 80s? How intact you are actually, or is it just something that people like
No,
imagine?
I think my perception is that when you live in Bergen or Stavanger or Oslo, you talk with the people that you are living in the same area, and then when you talk about philosophy, you talk about, and then it's I don't know, it's in Norway it's harder to reach to Stavanger and say that, hey, you want to play in my band or whatever, and talk about philosophy, meeting them, because Oslo, you meet a lot of metal people. Stavanger does the same, but they meet each other. Same with Bergen, and I think same with Trondheim. And I think that's why it's not so many people that share the same philosophy, ideology as you do yourself. And I think it's just easier to talk to people face to face. And you do that in Oslo, you do that in Bergen, Stavanger, Trondheim, and probably in the end it's not so many who really shares the same ideology. And that's why you end up playing with the people that shares your ideas.
So it's kind of like a process where you're just shaking off to
Yeah.
get the small bits away, and
Yeah.
then in the end you have the kind of
Yeah.
key ingredients in the
Yeah,
back.
and the funny thing with Norway is that it's actually very difficult to find musicians to play with, because people play with bands, they are busy with bands. Even though I have a lot of friends who plays in bands, I would love to play with them, but they are busy with their bands. And that is also why we have a Swedish drummer. In the end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Are there any kind of a dream project that you wanted to do but you never had the time or people to work with?
No. I'm actually extremely privileged with Nordjevel to play with the musicians that is in that band, and also with Doedsadmiral. I think the people that I really have respect for as musicians in black metal, I actually am fortunate to play with now.
Now, since we haven't really touched very music too much,
Yeah.
like people are now wondering, okay, now we know it's black metal and now we know
Yeah.
about ideology and all that stuff. Now, if you could pick one of your darlings, maybe two of your songs for people to start listening to Nordjevel, which ones you would pick and why?
That's
Annoying question, I know.
what would that be? Okay, I could pick one that I'm really proud of. That is Sunset Glow. It's also a little bit special song because that song is written by me and Dominator, without the guitarists.
Okay,
Somehow.
how did that happen?
No, we actually made a demo for a band that never happened. That was that song, and me and him wrote some guitars. We had the help from a friend of ours who played the guitar to make the song happen, and suddenly on Necrogenesis we decided that we were missing one song because our guitarist left. Yeah, can we use that one? And he said, yeah, fine, and we recorded it, and I don't know, for me it's a special song. And another one, I would say probably Norges opp I himmel from the debut album. The long song. For me, it's a personal anthem to Norway and to black metal and to the history of black metal and everything.
That's a fine choice then.
Yeah.
All right, what can we expect when we see you on stage?
Same as always, it's energy, it's intense, it's ruthless, it's pure hate. That's Nordjevel has always been about live hatred. We play on will, and we play on energy, and we play on frustration, hate, every bad feeling that humanity has. That is what we play with, because we have it ourselves.
All right, we're looking forward to that with all these smiles and all that stuff.
Yeah.
All right, one last question, or more like tip. What would you say to a youngster out there, right there, who is watching this interview and like, I'm gonna start my own black metal band, and your tip to him or her or whatever would be?
Believe in yourself. Don't listen to other people. If you have a vision, believe in it and go for it, and shut the world out and do what feels right.
Honest. There you have it, the most important words of today. And get to know their music. I can tell they're pretty goddamn good. And while I still haven't seen them on stage, that will be fixed in very, very soon. So this is Nordjevel, and this is Rauta Inferno 2023. Leave your notes or questions on the comments box below, and if you shall ask something smart, I will pass it on. If not, off you go. Bye-bye. Thank you so much. This was a very, very nice conversation.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah, it was. It was. I mean, we could have talked for hours. That's always
because that's what's so difficult. Because when you ask me stuff, I could have spoken like for an hour about one question.